Productions on the track.
What's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are in the Political Junkie show, the pre-show. And we was having such a good conversation. I said, let's get going. And I want my man to continue where we left off. We was talking about Joe Rogan. Go ahead.
He's wrong.
What?
Hey, continue, or maybe give a little bit of what you was talking about.
Basically the background is Joe Rogan's podcast has never been one for lack of controversy, whether it's trans, whether it's racism, whether it's all different things that have come up. I am somebody who has in the past been a Joe Rogan supporter, and he's kind of jumping the shark a little bit with COVID. Some people
so you're no longer a supporter.
I mean, I just don't feel the urge to watch anymore like I used to as much, because the content is not as appealing to me. Because it's kind of like at a certain point, it's like, all right, I get your opinion on COVID. I don't share it, but I don't want him to be deplatformed. So it's a different, thing. If you don't watch it, you turn it off. That's what they say. If you don't like something, you don't have to watch. And I haven't been watching as much lately. But recently he got a lot more flack than usual, because he had two doctors on, Dr. Robert Malone, who's very controversial. He claims to be one of the fathers of the mRNA vaccine. Other people say he's overblowing his involvement. And then the other doctor, I can't remember his name, but it was another doctor that was on. So with these two episodes were particularly controversial just because they said he's helping to spread COVID misinformation. So today, Joe Rogan issued an apology. I was shocked. I'm going to be honest, not because I just thought that, if those are the things that he believed, I think Spotify finally got to him. They said, listen, we're taking a big market hit in our market cap. And while we can't force you to do this, I think as a good partner, kind of walks back some stuff. And it was like in the good business spirit. So I think he did that to be a good business partner. But, now we were getting into an argument before this pregame started was around whether it's really an apology or it's not an apology. And again, it's why, sometimes even if you apologize, it could not be enough. So I think a lot of people in here that didn't watch the apology say it's not an apology based on hearsay. I watched it. I thought it was mediocre. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for this. But he did make a commitment to be more balanced and say, well, I understand people's thoughts that I'm being more counterculture lately and only platforming, people that have the counter narrative. He did have Dr. Sanjay Gupta on to have the pro-COVID narrative. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, he had for the pro-COVID vaccine narrative. So he's had plenty. The problem is, you don't really get positive feedback. You only get negative feedback when you have like a outrage. So a lot of people can ignore, especially people that don't watch the podcast, can ignore the good stuff and the good content in favor of getting angry.
I just, good content is like an oxymoron. Go ahead.
No, it's not that, but I think it's like, I'm semi with Gabe, and a lot of it because it's like, for example, Rachel Maddow went on MSNBC and her show and said, if you get the vaccine, you don't get COVID, which is completely a lie, right? So she didn't get the platform. You don't hear everybody going crazy. She didn't. I don't know if she did or not, but I haven't seen an apology about completely being wrong about that. Right, so we can't continue like I have never listened to Joe Rogan. I'm not a big fan of him. Same thing. I don't waste my time on Fox News. How much stuff does Fox News spread that is completely a lie? You don't hear people, let's cancel Fox News. Let's get rid of them.
What?
So
What?
Where do you live? How many people you go and say like, that actually like, I'm not going to go on Fox News or do that or whatever, politicians or whatever it is. It's not really like the problem is for me, I think is Joe Rogan got bigger than what they wanted him to be. And he got more, as you see, his ratings are skyrocketing where CNN, Fox News, MSNBC is going down. I personally think, there's a media narrative behind it to go after him. That's just me. And I don't even watch the guy.
Listen, all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay,
all right, that's fine.
That's
fine. You could be the know-it-all.
No, what I'm saying, as far as Fox News, forever trying to get canceled. Not canceled, but there's always a lot of pushback against them. There's
From who?
there's
The entire
I'm
left.
trying to remember. There's an organization that they focus on getting advertisers off Fox News, and they got some people off. They give them a lot of pushback. They blow them up on social media, saying like
Color of Change.
huh?
You heard of that? Color of Change.
It's not them. I heard of them,
It's
but I
not
don't think it's them. I don't think it's them.
Okay, go ahead.
But they basically, if an advertiser on Tucker Carlson or somebody like that, you know, they go and blow them up, like, hey, you support all this stuff that they're saying, and they ever have gotten some advertisers to pull their money out of them, and that's why you got like the My Pillow guy being like, you know, one of the few ones that still hang around. So they got some people out of some advertisers away from Fox News because of that. So there's plenty of pushback against them. But they're
now there's plenty of pushback against Joe Rogan, and I think that with Neil Young pulling his library, a couple other artists as well, some famous content review or music reviewers are canceling their Spotify account. So it's like ultimately people can choose with their wallet what they want to listen to. I barely listen to them anymore. I'll watch a clip once in a while, but not like I used to before. Before I used to watch.
But I don't see what the big deal is. And a month from now, this thing is gonna be they're not even gonna talk about unless he does something else stupid, you know. So
but isn't Joe Rogan part of Apple Music as well?
No, he's exclusive to Spotify.
Okay. Yeah. But you don't
bad. They pull up the big struck to get him to be exclusive.
Yeah, but they're allegedly going to build that advisory board to what is it, monitor what he's saying. Well, I don't think just him, but in general. So that's going to be interesting.
Just put a little disclaimer or something like that.
Yeah, they're gonna put the same thing like YouTube. They'll put the little COVID disclaimer. But you know, with Joe Rogan specifically, and whether it's Jimmy Dore, whether it's whoever is all over the place, I think that, you know, and Alex Jones and those people, unless you're doing direct calls to violence and things like that, your platform is your platform. And I think that Spotify has signed the agreement that they have with Joe Rogan and with no censorship. Now, if they want to remove that, or if they want to breach that or whatever, he's just going to go to another platform. It's not going to affect him. He's going to have his audience. He's the biggest talk show in the world. He probably has enough money and enough power and enough clout and supporters to start his own platform. If anybody could start an alternate YouTube, it probably would be Joe Rogan as the biggest podcast in the world.
Just like Trump and his
Trump is bad at everything, whereas Joe Rogan is pretty good at a lot of things, and he also has a lot of good people around him.
So let me read
you laugh, but it's true.
This guy laughed, but like Joe Rogan was the only one that brought Bernie up, and he even said it. He said, "I'll vote for Bernie over Biden."
He's the only one.
I mean, like, as for like not the only one like that. I mean, it's like when people brought and again, this is the problem that we have when you start deplatforming anyone just because you disagree with something.
What the hell is deplatforming them? And it's not about disagreement. It's about causing harm. Okay, it's not about just disagreeing. I could disagree every day with a bunch of people on YouTube, whatever, and I don't care. I just, like Dave says, I just stop watching if I don't like it, and I watch if I like it, and that's it.
I mean, for a dumb cage fighting commentator, he made an extremely compelling argument in his first few lines of his apology, which was a couple months ago. They said wear cloth masks, and now cloth masks don't work. And
all right, we're about to we're gonna start the show.
I
definitely want to come. Your facts is someone else's feelings.
No, that's not. Listen,
all right, we're gonna come back to this. We're gonna come back to this.
No,
but let's start
zone.
The show, baby.
I'm with you, Gabe.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the Political Junkies back at it again. Got everybody. Bendone's in the house. Carlito, John, Gabe is back in the building. Izzy is in the building, and we're gonna have some fun discussion politics and just getting into it like we was doing just now in the pre-show. People really going hard at this Joe Rogan, and I actually want to go back before we go back to that conversation. Though I just want to give everybody a little heads up on what we're going to be discussing. In No Cow Zone, we're going to ask the question: should cops who get shot be treated as heroes? You know, we'll see if that's a little controversy topic. Then we're going to discuss Nina Turner, and we're currently discussing Joe Rogan. And then we got 2 articles that we're going to bring up for Carlito's rundown. So let's go back to the conversation. So I think, Gabe, I cut you off.
What were we saying? We were saying that so Joe Rogan led off, and he was just saying that facts evolve. Facts, as I think from the beginning of the pandemic, they said don't wear masks. Then they said wear masks. Then they said wear cloth masks. Anything's better than nothing. Now that the N95 supply is pretty high, they're saying don't even throw away your cloth mask. Use your N95 mask only. So what he's just saying is that who knows what's going to be the new thing in a few months. And while again, I am vaccinated, I am boosted, and I recommend everyone do so. But it's very tough when we know what we know about the media, about the powers that be, to just suggest that anybody's one fact is now. If somebody's saying the vaccine kills, that's something that's clearly not proven with data. But when it comes down to the nitpicking, the what is the effectiveness of this for this age range and this and who should, like, I'm not a scientist doing my own research in a lab with clinical trials, so I can't tell you the specifics. I can only look at studies that are out there.
But Joe Rogan acts like he does, and that's the thing. You talking about facts and like he's nitpicking and this like that. When the COVID came out, people thought that it was going to live on surface for a long time. They studied it longer. They knew it wasn't. It was more aerosol, blah, 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 etc. So that's different from saying things like masks don't work, or saying things like I'm going to take this drug that is not proven to do anything or even study yet to do anything against COVID and throw the kitchen sink at it and stuff like this. That's not the same as scientific process and learning more. This is just misinformation or straight up lying, but again, you bring up the kitchen sink. Joe Rogan got everything prescribed by a doctor. Listen, and he got better. He got better in record time. He was he had the monoclonal antibodies.
Totally.
That is something that was
called the kitchen sink. He threw every medicine that his doctor prescribed.
Yeah, but then he was talking about ivermectin. I didn't even want to get into this, but that is something that hasn't been proved to work whatever and whatsoever for COVID yet.
Yeah, so by his standards, why are you so mad at ivermectin, but you're ignoring the monoclonal antibodies?
Because monoclonal antibodies is proven to work. That has been studied.
Yeah, that's what
everybody follows his treatment
plan. That's what he screwed up. He started giving medicine advice and stuff like that, and
he said,
hold on. I want to try to refocus this conversation because I don't even want to go with like the ivermectin and all that stuff. I think that's like old news.
We've already
I want to discuss like how much how much like getting banned. So for example, I just watched a clip where somebody on MSNBC was saying, why does other people have to suffer who are given the proper information? So it should just be Joe Rogan who gets that little disclaimer at the bottom. And before I lead the witness, what do you all think about that?
Who said it's only Joe Rogan? They didn't say it was only going to be Joe Rogan. They said they were going to do something for any podcast to talk about coronavirus.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
The point is that I'm trying to make is that she was saying, why do other people have to suffer when with the people who give proper information or the right information? Why do they need to have a disclaimer? When Joe Rogan,
what does the disclaimer say? Does it say
let's just say is the same as YouTube, right? Where YouTube has a disclaimer that says, this video is talking about COVID. Here's a wiki page or whatever page of authoritative information.
That's not to me.
So okay. So you agree?
I don't think that's suffering. If you're just saying like this is the topic being discussed, here's the link to information.
So you disagree? You disagree with her? Anybody agree with that here? That only like a Joe Rogan who society is saying is giving misinformation should have that disclaimer, or should everybody get that disclaimer?
Everybody could get it. Everybody could get it.
That's what
I mean. Everybody should be like MSNBC, CNN, all of them. Everybody talking.
I agree with that.
That's what I get mad about is that when they have those disclaimers under other channels, like with the foreign funding, they'll put a disclaimer on like Al Jazeera or BBC, but they won't have funding under CNN and MSNBC. That's really where they get me mad.
That's true. And
they can't put every single corporation under there, so it's too long.
They could just be, hey, look at who these sponsors are.
So I got something. I'll go a little bit further, right? I want to see the other side of the debate. So I don't want to just see they put a wiki page or an authoritative, let's say it goes to the CDC page, they have a link. I want to see the opposite view, like a link for here's this video is showing this side, and then here's this video showing the other side.
See, that's what we got. Like,
Why?
I don't. First of all,
we're critical thinkers. We should be able to look at both sides and decide ourselves.
Wait a second. Hold on. You're talking about you want to see a link that goes to a website that says COVID isn't real or the vaccine doesn't work, or what are you talking about?
So let's say, for example, in Joe Rogan, the case that we're talking about, Joe Rogan, right? So let's say he has a doctor that is talking about criticizing vaccines and everything like that. In the link, it should have a pro-vaccine link or video that is discussing the same thing.
That's too hard. First of all, I don't know how they would do it ahead of time if they don't know what the topic is. I mean, they might know the topic, or I mean, them don't even know if that's the topic of that particular episode. So that's hard to do.
It might be too hard to do. I can't imagine an algorithm because they will have to be done by a computer. How they would be able to do that. So I retract.
I don't think any of these things need disclaimers, because if you do it the other way and start doing what saying, give the negative case of like the pro-vaccine argument, it's giving it equal footing, and I don't think it deserves equal footing. Like I don't think it should be like down the middle, because if this is such a small niche and it's so like, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole and try to find the anti-vax stuff, is already not that hard enough. I mean, give more amplification to it.
Let me throw this out there. Would you guys like to see Fauci on Joe Rogan's show?
Nah, I don't care.
I don't mind.
Nobody cares?
I think so.
I'm indifferent.
I'm talking about, and they going back and forth. They gonna, because Fauci disagrees with Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's
maybe Joe Rogan.
He's not a scientist, so what evidential proof would he have?
Okay, so I agree with that. So let's have
Joe Rogan doesn't debate.
Hold on a second.
No, I'm talking about Fauci. Like, for what?
So
who's going to believe Fauci?
I agree with Ben Doan, where Joe Rogan is not on the same level as Fauci. So let's have Fauci come on the show and then have somebody on the show that is a scientist. But I think he's one of the controversy guys that Joe Rogan already
so
had.
The thing. We like, you could say Joe Rogan is trying to just give an positive view or whatever, but he's doing the 50-50 thing that you're talking about, Gabe, because you have two doctors out of a million or whatever on the opposite side.
He's arguably doing worse than 50-50, which is a legitimate argument. If you want to say he should do 50-50 or not do 50-50, he's probably doing more conservative, more anti-vax.
That's what I'm saying.
Even though he's had some good pro-vax people, he hasn't been the norm, and especially recently it's gotten worse instead of better. So I think if he was going 50-50, it would be an improvement from what it is right now. Right now it's like 70-30, 80-20 anti-vax.
Okay, wait, I'm perplexed. Why wouldn't you guys want Fauci to go on the most popular podcast and say, hey, this is why,
because nobody trusts that dude.
This is why you're wrong on this. This is why you're wrong on that.
Who trusts Fauci?
It's an first of all, it's an entire campaign. There's people right now.
We got so many different things going on right now. John said, "Who trusts Fauci?" Then Carlito said, "What you said?"
He's getting death threats right now. Like nobody's gonna
getting death threats.
Like,
I mean, you're a public figure, so you don't get much
sympathy. Fauci going on Joe Rogan is not going to convince anybody that's not already convinced.
I'm not sure why Izzy's mad. What's up, Izzy?
Because John just straight up said, "Who trusts Fauci?" Like, who trusts?
See, I knew we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, okay,
whatever you want. Like, I tell you what.
Okay, we got an emergency council.
Fauci more than Joe Rogan, I tell you right now.
Okay, yeah, but it's still not like, I mean, you guys.
I mean, why is Fauci? I mean, why not trust Fauci?
Why not? Conspiracy podcast. He said that masks don't work at the beginning.
First, he said masks don't work.
He intentionally lied.
Now it's like, I don't. It's the same thing when we talk about like you want to create this narrative of trust, right? We talk about all this institution and stuff like that. If I was Biden, I wouldn't kept Fauci around. I wouldn't.
So you don't trust nothing, John?
I'm not saying I don't trust anything. I'm just saying that when you go out there and it's hard, when you believe these people and they just change their mind,
But it's
First-
not him changing
first-
his mind.
first man- no,
you
no,
know,
no,
you know,
no.
Science
Fauci's
works?
more or less like a spokesperson for all the scientists, right? It's not him doing all the research himself, right? You know this, right, John?
I don't know what I'm telling. I'm just telling you. I'm entitled to my opinion. My opinion is I don't trust the guy.
No, I'm just
not
saying.
saying
But
that-
you know, it's not him lying, right?
Okay.
All right, we got to move on. We got to move
Let
on.
me-
Let me
It's
say
a
one last thing.
conspiracy
One last thing that I
podcast.
just wanted to say, because there was something in one of the articles that Vedon shared with us, and it was about the, Spotify trying to be more transparent about all the rules and regulations regarding all this stuff. And there was this one section that said, however, this was from The Verge, by the way. Said, however, a line present in the document posted internally is not there in the version available on Spotify's website, which prohibits suggesting that wearing a mask will cause the wearer imminent, life-threatening physical harm. That was in the internal document, and they took it out. So you could talk about mass harming people in the podcast. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you can even trust them. You can even trust Spotify because they don't want to lose money. So if Joe Rogan went on the show today and said, yeah, masks are gonna kill you, or you can't breathe, or you breathing your own CO2 or some crap like that, they took that out of their document. So
Well, he said that, right? With what's the comedian that he had the other day? Not the other day, a couple episodes ago. The bald guy.
But again, like I don't understand. Like if you don't want to listen to the dude, don't listen to him. Like
I don't
It's
listen
not
to
the
him.
same.
Again, I'm not going to the
people
Joe
up
Rogan
all
to
the-
look clips.
people are like all up in arm. Like Joe
listen,
Rogan-
The key thing here is it's he's influential,
yeah.
right? Regardless if you're searching for him or
To
not,
who?
he's coming up.
he has his follower, just like these other YouTubers that we don't watch in the left.
So hold up.
They have their followers and they say whatever they want to say. If you don't listen to
But who
them,
has
you don't
more
listen.
clout? Your YouTubers or Joe Rogan?
He's not getting arrested, all right? So as much right as he has to say all his crap, all of us here have the right to call him all kinds of words and say he's full of crap too. So all this outrage, so what? You know what I'm saying? If he got freedom, everybody else got freedom. So whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But what
nobody's
I'm
complaining
saying
about
is
that.
nobody's saying anything about that. But it's people are just saying, "Oh, cancel him and this and just deplatform
so
him
what?
and shut him down." But I'm leaving Spotify. Like
Okay, so let them leave.
exactly.
All right, let me
Just-
shout out the chat. Let's go to the chat real quick and give some love to the chat. PJ Chris was first in the building. All for Nothing is in the building. Much love to you. PJ Holly's in the building. PJ Neat is in the building. And who else we got over her? Yeah. Do we have? I saw Alan had a question. I don't know if you wanted us to address it officially, but I'll just go to this one really quick. Did people used to go to Howard Stern for facts and hard-hitting information? Okay, I get your point. Yeah,
Would you
they
say
go to him for
he's-
entertainment.
Hey,
No,
this is
well,
the new
he's
world.
the original Joe Rogan.
This is the new world. People believe him. This is the new world, man. That's how it is.
All right, so now I'm
I
gonna
used to
go.
watch Howard Stern for other reasons.
All right. Oh, all right. So let's go to this right. Her.
Children are worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for, and the people of Greater Cleveland know that I am a fighter.
Nina, I have to say, looking at my Twitter feed, there are a lot of people who are mad at you and mad at you because of the nastiness of the special primary campaign. A lot of people who say, "I'm turning the channel. I don't want to hear what she has to say." What do you say to folks who might still be mad about the last campaign? What do you say to them to, at a minimum, have them hear you out as a candidate?
I mean, when you are a change agent, you certainly don't please everybody. I'm mad too. I'm mad about what happened in the last election as well. It was very contentious, and the very forces that came in to pollute the dynamics of that race are the same forces that are polluting the dynamics in DC right now. Those forces that are against expanding healthcare, those forces.
Okay, I think we got there's a 7-minute long interview, this right here, And I just wanted to play that part though, because I feel like, man, the media doesn't. Boy, do they hate progressives. Like they brought up that question in a negative light, or is it just me? Let me.
What channel? What channel was that?
MSNBC.
Oh yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, like oh,
This is
people
your
on
third
Twitter
or fourth?
don't like you. Go ahead. Benny.
Is this her third or fourth time running?
This is her second time
for
running
that
the
role,
House.
for that position.
Yeah, and before she was in the state senate at the local level or the state level. But
that question is just like those people watching. They're like, "Oh yeah, I don't like her. Let me turn this over." Like it's totally leading question. But hopefully she learned her lesson. Hopefully she kind of like pick up her mistakes and fix them. And I think she definitely has a good shot. I saw her video. Her video was pretty good actually. When she announced, that was a really nice video.
So this came later in the day.
Let me talk to you a little bit about your upcoming primary challenge. You got a rematch with Bernie Sanders' ally, Nina Turner, I should say. Take a listen to her with my colleague, Jonathan K. Ford. Excuse me for saying Tina Turner. It is Nina Turner. Take a listen.
Wow.
It's a new district, it is new people, and it is absolutely a new time. It is my sincere hope that the issues are pushed forward and that dark money that really does not care about the destiny of the people in greater Cleveland, that they do not come in and try to dilute and also pollute the election process this time.
So two things there we heard. First and foremost is the interference of dark money here. Do you agree with her of the involvement in dark money in the process? And also, are you confident that you can defeat her once again?
Well, let me say this, dark money did play a role. And let me also point out that that dark money was on the other side of this race. I was outraised 3-1. And people seem to forget there were 11 other candidates in this race. And while it came down to me and her, I won by not a plurality, but the majority. So let's be clear, the lines have not been drawn. So we don't know what the district will look like. However, I was able to make it to the halls of Congress and deliver on the promises that I campaigned on, which was delivering jobs to the people here in Northeast Ohio by voting on the largest and most historic bipartisan infrastructure bill. We in Northeast Ohio will receive millions and billions of dollars, in fact, $1.8 billion to be exact to deal with roads, $96 million to deal with bridges, $100 million to deal with the lead pipe situation. So I've been doing the work, and I'm as a consistent 9-year legislator who has lived here my entire life. If the lines are redrawn where it should be, inclusive of all of Cuyahoga County, I'm confident that I have the best advantage to retain this seat. And I hope the people of the 11th congressional district will trust me to continue doing the work that I promised to do.
Man, I tell you that one thing for sure, she has a slick tongue. Like she knows how to try to make herself look good, even though she's lying about the dark money. Does she even know the definition of dark money?
Like,
dark money is when
she knows
don't
she's
know.
flipping, she's twisting it.
Yeah, you don't. Dark money is when you don't know where the money's coming from. Nina Turner got like the most, like I think it was like $27 small dollar donations. Like, come on.
But let's talk about like, your opponent, Bernie Sanders' ally. Like, like they just throw it out there. Like, why does that matter? And they just want to tie. Like, that's why we always say, like, the media drive the narrative. And then people are like, oh, Bernie Sanders, you know. So those people that may like her, but just for whatever reason may not like Bernie, they'll be like, yeah, I'm not voting for her.
But they don't even do any research to find out. Of course, it's by design, but it's like, yeah, your opponent said you put a lot of dark money. You had a lot of dark money. Do you agree? What's she supposed to say to that? Yes.
No.
No.
I know.
If it was real journalism, they would have been like, well, we see this amount came over here. We don't know where it came from. There was no disclosure. They ain't gonna do that.
But that, we talk about it all. We don't talk about it enough. Maybe I would say that there's not a lot of investigative journalism anymore. It doesn't feel like to me. I don't come across a lot of that. You see it sometimes from what's that publication? What's that website?
ProPublica.
No, the one case you're always sharing articles. The Intercept. Yeah. We see it from there a good amount, but outside of that, I mean, the Daily Show, freaking, John Oliver's show last week tonight. Those are our investigative journalists these days. What kind of country do we live in?
Shout out to Georgia Sheridan.
Yeah, so you know what I think it is, Izzy? It's they are afraid of losing the audience. They think that the audience isn't smart enough to stay and watch their little 3-4 minute segments. That's why they do those little bites, and then they try not to give that much information. So, for example, I remember Crystal Balls.
Who are you referring to when you say they?
So MSNBC and the producers, like the producers, the people in the control.
But the thing is, if they wanted sound bites and they did what Carlito said and brought up, hey, tell me about why this donor gave you this amount. That would be a huge sound bite. That would get a lot of ratings. But
they can't.
They can't because they're.
I agree with you on that one. Okay, I
agree
with you on that one.
Tell me why John gave you $100 million. John in the background saying, "You better not talk about me. You better not talk about me." That's how it works. So
he's behind the camera pointing at her like, "Yo, I'm gonna see you after. I'm gonna see."
But the other thing too is it takes time, and right now everything's about pushing content as fast as possible.
That is also true.
But I wonder, a point they could have brought up was that in a special election, you're only going to have a smaller amount of the populations that's going to vote versus a regular election or general, the midterm election. So that means there's going to be a whole different dynamic. Plus, I like what Nina Turner said is that there's going to be a new district drawn. So you can't compare the two elections.
She gets one more chance. If she doesn't do it,
I think she's going to learn. She learned from her mistake. I don't think Chuck and company and Nancy and company are going to step in. Or they may.
You don't think they will?
I don't think. I think they have bigger things to worry about. I think. I think there's going to be other elections going on, and I think this one again, like they nationalize it. It was one. There was only one going, so they put all that focus there. I think there's a lot happening. I think there's a lot of opportunity for progressive to actually win, especially like in Texas.
Who's a bigger threat to them though than someone like Nina Turner? Who's a bigger threat to someone like a Pelosi and Chuck than Nina Turner when it comes to the progressives? Yeah. I agree with you. It's just one seat, and it's not. There's a lot of other stuff going on, but I don't think anybody's more of a threat to them. So I think that they have unlimited money. I mean, what does it hurt to just throw their unlimited resources into this and try and screw her over again?
Yeah. This one, Brown, she got support from the corporate Democrats and from Republicans to beat her. So
that she brought up that point too, that Republicans help vote in that race. They didn't care about the Republican side, because usually the Republicans vote on the Republican side, Democrats vote on that side. The Republicans cross the line to go help out Chantel Brown.
Yeah. CMT said it's a damn safe seat, and that's why they knew the Democrat was going to win, so they just wanted to pick the more Republican Democrat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So me not winning for them is not good. So they're going to do. You're right. So
what? I have a quick question, since Gabe kind of said, like, if she doesn't win this time, she should stop, right? Shahid Buttar, I think this is his third time running against Nancy Pelosi.
He's running again?
Yeah. So what you guys thinking?
We talked about this before. We need to find. We need
Who else is running? Who else is doing it? That's I guess the counter.
You're not going to, but you have to find. As bad as it sounds, like a young white woman that's there, even if it's there and put there just to get rid of Pelosi, but you won't. That's the only chance that you may have of beating her. But Homeboy has zero chance of beating her. He's gonna be like, again, I'm not even going to bother debating you, so keep it moving.
Yeah. All right. So since we're on this topic of 2022, let's watch this video. Real
endorsements are just a piece of this.
Taking a closer look at Pennsylvania this afternoon, where Democrats have declined to rally behind one candidate in a key Senate race. It's a lack of endorsement for Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb. He's been working to try and get support from party insiders, and the stakes are really high for Democrats in this race. The Philadelphia Inquirer points out, quote, national Democrats are watching Pennsylvania's Senate race closely. It is one of the most competitive in the country, likely their best chance to flip a seat in the chamber. And it could help determine which party has the majority after this year. I want to bring in now Julia Taruso, a staff writer at the Philadelphia Inquirer, my hometown paper, who's been following the story very closely. We're so glad to have you on, Julia. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much.
So talk about what went down for Congressman Lamb, because he still got a lot of votes, right, from state Democrats, but he didn't hit that 2/3 threshold that would have triggered a formal endorsement, right?
Right. So Congressman Lamb went in needing 2/3 of a room of about 300 party insiders. These are really active hyper engaged Democrats who are paying attention to the primary 3.5 months out. And he worked hard to kind of try to call these members up, send mailers to their places, their houses, and he came close. He got about 60% or so, but fell short of that 2/3. His campaign would say that's still a pretty good showing of support in that room. The other opponents in the race are, I think, very happy that there's a no endorsement from the party right now.
Other candidates, including the Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, right, who's raised something like $11 million since he launched his campaign. He didn't even get, half the number of votes from this party group that Lamb did. Do you see this as a disconnect, perhaps more broadly, between right now fundraising and party support?
Oh, yeah. Lieutenant Governor even said that when he spoke to the room that day. He said, kind of how do you judge how a campaign's doing? Is it polling? Is it fundraising? And that was a direct statement on how his campaign is winning in those two lanes. And endorsements are just a piece of this. But I think with Fetterman, you see an interesting kind of front runner outsider candidate. He's really not getting the kind of established Democratic Party support that you usually see following front runners early on.
I'm gonna stop it there. What you guys think? I thought it was interesting that he's the lieutenant governor, and he can't get the establishment backing. And I'm not saying he should court it or anything. I'm just saying, like, in a logical world, somebody who's that established, it would be automatic that they're going to support him. While Connor Lamb, who's this conservative corporate Democrat's coming out of nowhere, I think he's in the House currently, and he got 60%. He didn't get 66, which is good because he would have officially got the nomination of the endorsement, but he only got 60%. Like, what you guys think?
So, wait. So which one is? I'm not too familiar with what's going on in Pennsylvania.
What's your question, John?
So Fetterman is the more progressive, or just?
Yes. So Fetterman is definitely, he endorsed. Let me just put his credentials. He endorsed Bernie in 2016. I think he might have endorsed Bernie in 2022. I'm not sure, but anybody who endorses Bernie, especially back in 2016 when he was just coming up and is against Hillary Clinton, this big powerhouse, you got to give him a certain amount of credibility, because that's putting yourself in danger if anything happens. So yeah, I would say he's the progressive. I think some people might say that he's not as progressive, but now you're splitting hairs. I think once you get to that point, but I would definitely say that he's the progressive in the race. Yeah.
He's more progressive than the other one.
He's way more than Connor Lamb, way more. And let me just show you his face. So he's the one on the right. Connor Lamb is the one on the left. So, and you can see by he's like an everyday man, like the way he even carries himself. He's almost like a Jesse Ventura kind of guy, where he's not really the conventional kind of person, But anyway, all right. So I have no other things on this. Let's go to the articles. Go ahead, John.
No, I would just go ahead. We can move on. I just wanted to see. Okay. I'll read more about it. That was interesting to see, like, why we don't jump the run, and the Elizabeth Warren of the world, the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Mark Lee of the world, like, why are they not endorsing? Like, why? Don't wait for the establishment to decide. If they get a head start, maybe that could definitely get the race, push the race even further. But I don't know too much about it to speak about it.
Yeah, no worries. Let me read a couple comments. All for Nothing said, that's the rich elite lawyer side of the party afraid of Fetterman's looks. I agree. PJ Chris said, Fetterman doesn't need their support. He will even get Republican votes, or I would say independents, but yeah, Republican votes too. And I agree. He has that cross appeal, just like a Bernie. If Bernie would have won the general, he would have got Republican votes and a lot of independent votes. So we'll see. Hopefully he wins, and we'll see what happens from there. But I definitely hope he wins. But let's go to the articles. My man Carlito's rundown. It's been a minute. All right, which one you want to go to first? I got the two up.
Let's start with the United Healthcare real quick.
Yeah.
So in 2021, 72% of United Healthcare, $222.9 billion health plan revenue came from taxpayers. So this article is saying that 94% of the total U.S. membership growth over the past decade was in government programs, specifically Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplement plans marketed largely with AARP. Their private sector membership increased by only 710,000 between 2011 and 2021. That means that basically all their money is coming from all of us, the taxpayers. Right, John?
You know it. Yeah, the title is pretty much self-explanatory. It was a good article. I was reading about it, and it's crazy. This is why they just definitely not pushing. They don't want to see Medicare for all. They don't want to see anything that affects their pocket. He even talked about it, with CVS and now being part of Aetna and stuff like that. It's going to be very, very hard for us to really see Medicare for all when all these, companies are making so much money, especially out of all of us.
Yep.
100%. I think about Amazon, they're trying to buy CVS. So then that's another big corporation that's getting involved in the pharmaceutical side of the industry. And I heard
if that happens, I mean, they will, because CVS bought Aetna, right?
No, Aetna bought CVS.
Okay.
Bought CVS, yeah.
Okay. So they're trying to buy.
I think John is right. I think CVS bought Aetna.
No, vice versa.
You sure? I think the article you put up, it just said it.
Let me see that. I'm gonna look real quick.
Look in the article right there, the what you were showing on the screen.
Aetna is now part of CVS.
Yeah, CVS bought. Yeah.
So
CVS definitely here, but and I don't know how much. Speaking of this, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with a new program that Mark Cuban is doing with the prescription.
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah.
So
Future President Mark Cuban.
Well, we'll see. But what I've been reading, a lot of people seem to like the prices and stuff like that. I don't know too much about it to really
it's good in theory, but it's so tiny. There's not a whole lot of drugs in there. Basically,
let's explain to the audience who doesn't know. So I don't know if Carlito want to go or John want to go. Who?
Yeah, Mark Cuban started like an online pharmacy, kind of bare bones, venture capital type deal. Buying, according to him, buying certain drugs directly from the manufacturers, the same way as everybody else, but only taking like a 15% markup. So they end up being cheaper than in a lot of other places. They don't do any co-pays or anything like that because he says they end up being cheaper than if you use your insurance plan. So they use straight cash and it's still cheaper according to them. Problem is, it's tiny. So, they probably had just maybe some of the most common drugs or whatever they could get their hands on. But I mean, over time, maybe it could grow and it could be good. Now, the good part is that, it is cheaper. If your drugs are anything that you need, it is cheaper. The bad part for me, or one of them, is that he was trying to, he said he wants to make it, he put his name on it because he wants to make a point that capitalism can be, I forgot the word he used, not sensitive or nice or compassionate or something like that.
Compassionate capitalism. Yeah, probably
something like that. So it's all right, this is an excuse not to do something that truly works and is bigger and helps more people, like Medicare for all, because, he is a capitalist after all. So
you gotta wonder how much that would even set Medicare for all back, because if it does have even some tiny amount of success, every capitalist is going to be pointed to it. Look, this is the way we need to move forward. Look, they're going to get the politicians on board. Politicians are going to be like, yeah, just let the free market run it. Just let the free market do its thing. And, it could set Medicare for all back even further.
But when you have talked, when you have heard him talk about, he always said he doesn't support Medicare for all. And he explained it the way that he was talking about, if you are a lower income, I have to find when he talks about it, but it's he was just says 1% of your salary that goes to it, because you remember he talked about Medicare for all would not include dental or vision or something like that. So the way that he explained it, obviously it's not all Medicare for all, but it kind of makes some sense. It's you obviously have to do a little bit more research to kind of understand it. But this company that he's talking about, something is better than nothing, right? At least we'll maybe get people to start thinking, like you said, yeah, maybe we'll get those companies, but maybe they'll start thinking about, oh, you know what, it's cheaper. Let's make it cheaper. And yeah, it may set Medicare for all a little bit longer, but at this point, like, you know, these people, we may not get it. So if people at least getting something cheaper for now, something is better than nothing.
Is California still like on track? I put that in quotation mark to try to, or did it die?
Well,
it died.
It's passed before and then been vetoed by the governor, from what I understand.
Well, the governor was like, he got $100 million pay raise to say no from the healthcare companies. He was all for it. He campaigned on it. He pushed for it. Next thing you know, Silverback came in with $100 million and he vetoed it.
It's probably Mark Cuban.
If we can't get
Cuban lives in Texas.
Here it is, a tweet that came out an hour ago. Breaking: California's single payer bill folds without a floor vote as that person doesn't put up the AB 1400 on the last possible day. Major defeat for progressives. Also, Dems avoid taking a public stance after the California Dems progressives threatened to block endorsement of non-backers. Yeah, so basically it didn't move forward. That's the moral of the story.
All I hear
Had
is
momentum.
New York, this is your chance. Like California was about to steal the show. They fell through. This is the chance now for New York to actually try and do it here and then show, you know, this can be done and it could be.
Virginia has
we have a lot of.
What are you smoking?
Outside New York is one of the most
Bureau.
progressive states. I'm not talking about the city. I'm talking about the state, not the city. The city is not going to happen with Eric Adams. I'm talking about the state at the state level.
The state itself as a level. Once you go up a little bit up north, you miss that progressive part of it.
I'm not saying
we'll see what happens.
We know that there's lots of red districts in New York, but we have some of the most progressive policies in the country as a state. We already have that. Like New York is a very progressive state. How are we able to go this far? I don't know, but I think this would be the perfect opportunity to capitalize. This current governor, I know so little about her. It's hard to really say if she would even be down for something like that. But who knows? Maybe with Jumani in the governorship, who knows?
Unfortunately, I clipped something recently that included the governor's race, and they barely mentioned Jumani. They mentioned the conservative person to the right of Governor Hochul.
Wow.
I forgot her name.
Hochul.
Something. Yeah, we know who we're talking about. They mentioned I didn't even know there was a conservative person to the right of her, and then they missed out Jumani, who's a progressive that we all know that's running for governor. So, oh man, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we talk a lot about Nina. We got to make sure we support this dude too. I mean, he's not perfect, but he if we had a real progressive New York governor, I think a lot could change.
Oh yeah, 100%. And getting somebody at that top spot would be great because I think we already have a progressive assembly, from what I understand. Like they're really
it's democratic.
Right?
I don't know if it's progressive, but it is. The whole
it's
seat
grown.
is blue.
Because we got rid of the IDC, I think they were called.
IDC, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got rid of those guys, and then we got more. We got like somebody that ran on the Green Party, and he's a Democratic Socialist of America. I can't think of his name right now. Black guy. He's in the assembly, and so it's gotten more progressive, definitely overall. So we just need a good governor.
The bottom line is, you saw California, and even though it looked like it could have passed, the capitalists got involved and said, like, nah, son, you're going to do that. So with Mark Cuban, it's going to be the same thing. He has a business. He has investors. The bigger he grows, there's going to be the same kind of pressure. There's anything that's going to affect profits is not good for capital.
But I think he's an investor. I think, again, like I'm not defending him or stuff, and you're right. But I think when you hear him, when you have him speak, right? Because the thing is, like, I always look for you look for different things and see what people changes, right? Like what I always tell people, the people that don't like Bernie or whatever, I always tell them one thing that I appreciate about Bernie, that he never changed who he was, right? Regardless of what it was, he always said the exact same thing. When you listen to Mark Cuban, the way that he talks in the last, 8-10 years, he always been the same. He always said, like,
well, I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm not calling him a liar or anything. I'm just saying.
No, but I'm just telling you that he's not going to, like, the things that he's saying. The reason why he got into this is because, even in the chat they're talking about, he called out companies like like Walmart that are not paying a living wage, calling companies that are getting too greedy with healthcare, right? So yeah, he in the end run, he's making money, but he's making it affordable, right? So he has to always be upfront about that, regardless if you like it or not. At least you respect that when someone tells you that, you know, be like, oh, I'm waiting for when the price skyrocket from like $10 to $300, right?
But again, it's still a business, and he still has to make money. And
absolutely.
And
to me, Mark Cuban is like break the glass in case of emergency kind of candidate.
And you know, if Marianne in an emergency, because we're gonna lose if we don't break glass. It's
even affordable things like Medicare for All is going to help those people that can't even afford Mark Cuban's thing. The people that are on Medicaid and things like that. Yeah. So he's
we can't even talk about Medicare for All. Medicare for All is dead until 2028, 2030. It's dead. It's never going to happen until 2028 or 2030.
Why you say that,
at the best? Because the next election is lost. That's 2024 through 2028. So it's dead.
Why are you counting out 2024 already? Wait, what happened?
Who do you
have you
been
Biden's
going to win?
No. I'm not thinking about Biden. We have a progressive.
There's no Democrat.
For a progressive. That person hasn't come on the scene yet. As of right now, it's Marianne Williamson, and you know I would like to see more people jump in the race. But in my fantasy world, I would love to see a slate of like 3 or 4 strong progressives who challenge Biden, and then when they challenge Biden, we'll see who gets in the debates. And you have to kind of think of how the neoliberals do it, right? They had Pete Buttigieg, they had Amy Klobuchar, they had all these different neoliberals up there, and then they see who was the one that floated to the top, and eventually nobody did, so they went to their break glass and emergency Biden, and it worked.
I will vote for Cuban over any of those the people you mentioned.
All that's like step 19 or whatever, because you're gonna have how many Joe Manchins you're gonna have in the Senate to even let it get to the president, you know, in the House. So you gotta get the grassroots out there. We gotta get we gotta get a lot of state houses. That's what we gotta do. You know, because the president can only do so much, you know. And you know, even if he can use the bully pulpit, you know, if you have strong enough opposition for him, even from his own party, you know, if you have a strong you know, if Bernie was president, you know, you're going to have a strong bunch of corporate Democrats trying to stop everything he wants.
I'll tell you this. As of right now, I'll be honest with you, I was not a Marianne person at the beginning, but I've followed her in every video that I've seen recently. I think she's really turned a corner on her progressivism and being a polished candidate. I think she's getting better.
Let's be honest. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Go ahead.
So do you think she has a real shot at winning?
And I would never say it's hard to beat an incumbent, period. So to say that she has a real shot, I would say that I would support her. That's what I would say. If it's just her right now, I would support Marianne Williamson. That's what I would say. Now, if it was Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, and there's other names that I would like to see, then now I have to look at everybody and see how do they react to the media? How is the media accepting them, or how do they answer certain questions? Because we all know when Bernie did the 60-minute video and he talked about Cuba or Castro, like he totally messed up there. I think when they asked him about prisoners being able to vote, I think we have to allow our politicians, our progressives, to like totally ignore certain questions that we know are asked of them to trip them up. So once I see a politician like that's that savvy, like they're progressive and we know they're progressive, and then when the media hits them with all these stupid questions, they just, you know what, I would rather talk about how I can provide old people a stronger social security program than talk about Castro, something about the past. You know, Castro giving his citizens or whatever it was that 60-minute that totally messed them up over the next couple of days right up to South Carolina. But anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one Democratic candidate that's popular today that beats whoever the Republicans put up. They could put up Sarah Palin. They're going to win in 2024. That's my not so hot take, and it comes down to us not being able to govern. The vote for us because Trump is evil, that already passed, and it already shows that even getting rid of Trump you're not going to pass meaningful legislation. They're trying to rebrand the failure of an infrastructure plan as like the greatest thing in history since sliced bread, and it's like people are going to do it. And what's going to happen is not going to be people vote for the other side. It's going to be people who don't come out to vote because they haven't given them anything to vote for.
Kyle Kalinske said something that I thought was interesting. He said, if he was running for president, I think that's what he said, he would run on a plan of, I want America to have the best infrastructure in the world, not try to improve it, not try to fix the bridges that we currently have. He said, we're going to totally put whatever, and it could be, and I'm adding this, it could be like a $30 trillion bill, whatever. He's going to say, hey, this country got the best, we want to be on top of that. So let's get a hyperloop, national hyperloop, so that we can, that's what I would say. I wish that somebody would say, we need a hyperloop train that can go. I think the hyperloop is like either as fast as an airplane or faster. I think it's like 700 miles per hour. So that would attract me, and I'll be curious to poll that in the whole country to see who would be interested in having an alternative to airplanes where you got to get checked. They're basically raping you in the damn security, touching up your body.
Real quick to Chris's comment, I think you can't really trust the polls. The polls had Hillary winning in 2016.
Well, you could trust.
So we can't trust the polls right now, especially a lot of Republicans aren't responding in polls. So there's a lot of YouTubers right now that are saying that the best polls, like unless we're winning by 20 points, like you can't really trust the polls. If it's within 5 points,
polls, it varies. It depends because the polls, there's always the margin of error, and also when you have a national poll, that's different from all the polls in the different states because we have electoral college, so it's not the same thing. But the polls, all the stuff about the polls suck because whatever, the polls is still an inexact thing. There's margins of error, is some what's the prognostication involved in that. So it's not like if you see a poll, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's just what people think now, and then when
it's 2 years from now, we still got too much time to be polling.
Yeah.
So I'm curious though, what you guys thought of my plan. Like if you get a progressive and they market something, maybe it's not exactly what I said, but they have some kind of ploy, Trump had Make America Great Again, and something the swamp. What drain the swamp? What you guys think?
100%. I agree with you, and I'll go to John with that because that's what the Democrats should have done in Virginia, because they had a whole lot of good things that they could have promoted to, drown out whatever it was that all the
CRT and all this crap
or whatever. You talk about all the good things that you passed, and people are going to be like, yeah, they're talking about this crap, but listen. We got the death penalty abolished. We got all this other, X, Y, and Z. Like, some of the things, John, what you think?
No, yeah, like it's, we talked about it. Like, and even that, it's also putting the right candidate. Like, they went in, they forced this guy that was, nobody really liked him as a governor. He was, Hillary Clinton type candidate. He lost. They didn't run on policy. They did so, again, like, restore the rights of 200,000 felon. They abolished the death penalty. They increased minimum wage. They, even as much as some people may or may not like it, they was very business friendly. So their job, there's a lot of jobs here, well paying. They didn't run on that. They ran on Trump is bad, and they lost. So it goes back to it. I think, if I'm president, I'm running on like, one, we gotta get a candidate that could actually people listen to. And he actually makes sense when he listens, and at least get people excited about listening, and say, you know what, like you said, I'm going to run on all of this. However, you need to give me people that will follow this agenda. So the Mansion of the world, the cinema of the world, you also need to vote them out, and you got to call them out like that. And that's the problem. If you don't have anyone that could focus on actually calling these candidates out, is what Carlito's point said. It doesn't matter who we put in there if people continue to be voting for the exact same people. And then the Democratic Party continue to, we talked about it in 2020, the House lost seat, the Senate lost seat, and what did they do? They kept the same leadership. And that leadership is terrible. So
even with that, we talk about how they pretty much doomed for the next couple elections, but even with Biden, I think one large thing that they're not doing is just marketing what they're doing, because it's not what we want, but they're doing some things that they could run on, that they could blast. Like, I don't know why they're waiting until election time to be putting out
like $2,000 checks. They definitely have to make sure they promote the $2,000 checks that they give everybody.
Yeah, whatever. It's still something that they could promote. You know, that's my point. Like, just like Republicans that voted against infrastructure, they're promoting it, saying like, look, we're gonna get this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
So
They're lying like they voted for it. Yeah,
exactly. So Democrats could be doing the same thing about everything that they're getting.
They're trying. You didn't hear our senator, or was it the representative earlier?
Stop with your sarcasm.
No, I'm serious though. When we were listening to Nina Turner's opponent earlier, she said I was part of the historic infrastructure. Like, she's marketing, she's trying to market it, and it doesn't hit.
I think that's what Alan was trying to say in the chat. You know, because she was, to me, it sounded like she was doing a good job, but at least, you know, whatever crash she got, but at least she's selling it.
All of this.
Yeah. All right, yo, we got 10 minutes left in the show. I gotta do rapid fire. John, finish your point. Go ahead, buddy.
What I was gonna say is, my point is, like, you know, it goes back to like the leadership and stuff. Like, if I was in leadership, I put every bill out there, even if I know the bill's gonna fail. I'll put it out there and just start putting, like, this is who voted for this, is voted, and then you run on that, because the Republicans' excuse is gonna be like, well, the Democrats can't govern, so I didn't vote for it because they couldn't get it together. So they just gonna always have a defense. And if you put it there, you put it for them to vote. The Republican, you can actually run on that. The Republicans don't want you to have minimum wage. The Republicans don't want you to have health care. And it's not like, oh, well, they never voted for it, I may have switched my vote.
Yeah.
Another thing about marketing is the whole thing we talked about before. Some of you guys said, like, oh, if it wasn't called defund the police, if it had a better name and marketed differently, same thing. If you mark, you know, so I guess you agree with me.
All right, so let's move on, because we got like 8 minutes left in the show, and there's a lot that I want to cover. I'm going to save No Cow Zone. We already did a couple of No Cow Zone, like mini No Cow Zone. So I'm going to save what I have for the following next week. And this is the second. I'm taking over Carlito's rundown real quick to give the second article. The Silicon Valley City just voted to institute first in the nation gun ownership requirements. And the main thing I want to stress is, and this is in San Jose, California, is that if you want a gun, you have to have insurance for that gun. That's one of the things we've talked about in a previous show, that you need to have insurance and be insured, so that hopefully, you know, the insurance company, now they got to assess you to see if they want to insure you. So I thought that's crazy. That's very good. And we'll see if that can spread. Go ahead, Gabe. You got something?
I was just saying thumbs up. I think everyone in this panel agrees that at a minimum, we should have regulation on guns, similar to if you're driving a car, you have to have a license and registration and insurance. And I think for a gun, you should have license, registration, and insurance.
So. Yeah, 100%. And all right, so I just want to show.
Why would insurance be the one thing? Like, the thing I'm not understanding. Why is insurance the big thing? Like, that's not the license and the registration. Okay, fine, but the insurance is like the selling point here. I don't see how that helps us a lot.
You don't see how we talked about this on a previous show. That's why I was excited about it. That in our, what we used to call it, think tank, that we talked about
for cops, the insurance, but for
the insurance for cops, I get, but not for owning a gun.
Insurance for guns. Something's done with your gun, you could get dropped for your insurance, and then in theory, you can't get a gun anymore, like Case was saying.
It's like you have insurance. Somebody gets hurt in your house, you know, you got to have insurance for that. You know,
cars. But that doesn't prevent you from bringing people into your house. You know what I'm saying?
Like, what I'm saying is, but then somebody, you're liable. Somebody could take you to court or whatever. I mean, that's what it is.
Or they might not decide not to insure you, so now you can't have it.
Not really gonna happen though.
I think it's a great idea, because they just gonna go same thing. Just like the type of car you drive, the type of gun you have is gonna be the most expensive. So if you have an AR-15, it's gonna be X amount, $200 a month, $300 a month. People may not be like, oh wait, I don't need that or something. So I think it's a good first step.
So I'm sure there's people who can't drive because they can't get insured. If the insurance company look at their record, they can't drive. Go ahead, Carlito.
You know, like Devil's Advocate, you know, part of that, you know, in the article says you can't. It says they can't tax a constitutional right. That's what they're saying. I don't necessarily agree with that, but the part that I kind of agree with is that when you have the fees, usually they're gonna fall upon the people that can't afford them. The poor people, you know, they're not gonna, you know, even if they have perfect whatever, no background, background check is clean, but they can't afford fees or whatever, they can't get a gun. Meanwhile, people with money, they just get away with it, get whatever, as usual. So that's the only part that I'm like a little iffy on, but it's still guns, so whatever, do it anyway. But in theory, I don't like fees that are regressive. You know what I'm saying? It's a flappy.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't. Do we know any poor people who buy a lot of guns right now? I don't know.
Half of them.
That's legally. No.
All right, so
have you been to the Bronx?
Have you been to anywhere in the South?
Let's go to A Study QB's tweets of the week. So this is a funny one. Please tell me why this is a necessary in Marion, Iowa. Look at this. He's got 2 guns here, and he got his regular gun, and he's got like all these clips.
Yeah, 4 guns.
4 guns. Huh? 4 guns. Oh wow, I missed this one. Wow. And then he's like buying bakery goods or something.
This is what I've always said about like half of this country. Like I live in New York City. I don't own 1 gun and I'm perfectly fine. You have these people who don't have a neighbor for 10 miles, but they're the ones with 50 guns. Who's coming to your house? Like the only people around your house are deer. Like, what do you have all these guns for?
So just to give you the other side of the story, don't pull a John on me and say that I like Nancy Pelosi, but just to give the other side of the story, right? They see as because they're so secluded, they're the cops. Like they can't call the cops and expect the cops to come 5-10 minutes.
Right, but the cops against who? When your neighbors are 10 miles away. Like who are you worried about coming to your house when you don't ever see anybody? You know what I mean? Like
Texas
but those are the people that are strapped. Like they're about to go into a war, or like at any moment, 50 people are gonna show up and rob them. Like where?
Yeah. Here's a McDonald's sign. Hold on, let me just show you real quick. This McDonald's sign that shows at the bottom is giving you all the different prices, but it keeps going lower. Like here's age 16 to 17, $13 an hour. Then you have age 14 to 15, $11 an hour. Like what you gonna have age 10 to 14?
Are they doing
$5?
Slave labor. Terrible.
Get out of here. Are they doing the same work? Then they get the same pay. That's it. How old they are.
What else we got here? It's crazy.
But like they're blatantly saying it out loud, like, yeah, we support child labor. Here's how we're gonna pay them cheaper. That's crazy.
Not child labor. A lot of us have.
Here's the one thing that China is getting right. China jails almost 50 steel executives for faking emissions data. Like, do you see this happening in America at all?
I think there's probably a catch. But real quick, Gabe, to your point, I'm not saying child labor like illegal child labor. I'm just saying that they are 14. They are, young. Like what they should be paid the same amount, like Carlito said. Anyway,
if we were able to, if the compromise was a minimum wage of like $20 for 18 plus, and it was $12 for under 18, I would take that compromise.
No, I wouldn't.
I would.
No, because they're doing the same job.
I mean, if they're good enough, then they could leave and go somewhere else.
My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. The same argument that Republicans say is like, yo, this job that's supposed to be just entry level jobs. You're not supposed to work there after you're 18. That's only for the teenagers after school. You're saying they're good enough, they could leave. If you're doing the same work, you should get the same pay. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Gabe is a Republican.
I'm saying if that's the compromise, I'm in favor of it. If it's all or nothing, then I want everybody to get the same pay. If I gun to my head and I had to choose, I would say over 18, $20, under 18, less.
Nah, man, forget that.
Yeah. So this video right here is an oil spill in, I believe, Amazon, in the Amazon forest.
Stop that, Bedlam.
Huh?
All
right, we're gonna end the show. Man, we had so much.
Y'all keep calling me up. I wanted to say something, man. When we're talking about guns, I wanted to say something because I told
you. You got the floor, baby. Go ahead, Carlito.
Close it up.
Give it to them.
Last week about Georgia having the constitutional carry, where you don't need a license to be concealed, carry or anything like that, and that's what they're trying to pass. Well, they had a poll, and they said nearly 70% of poll respondents said that they do not agree with that law in Georgia. So that was crazy because you know we're in the South. So even though that's one of the things that the Republican Brian Kemp is trying to push now in order to appeal to the far right, it's not working. You know, most of it are their base. And another thing in the poll that says 68% of Georgia voters poll that they don't want the court to overturn Roe v. Wade.
All right. With that said, we're gonna wrap it up. I saw 2 last ones. I'm gonna show it real quick and then we're gonna end the show. Did you know that Don Jr. he thought the N in SNL was actually an "and"? Like this is his tweet. It almost like a funny version of an SN.
Well, do you see that? That's why Donald Trump said if one of his kids can go to jail.
Oh yeah, he said let it be Don because Don can handle it. Who thinks that Don Jr. can handle jail? Anyway, and here's the last thing: is we end on a great note. Starbucks union wave is spreading fast, and here's an article by Bloomberg of all people. Starbucks employees are now petitioning to unionize at 50 U.S. stores. So, with that said, give some love to the chat. Thank you so much. You got PJ Chris was first. We got Alan PJ. Need is in the building. PJ Holly Horn. Erica was in the building. Rafael Rodriguez was in the building. Who else? PJ Chris. Mia.
New person.
Mia was in the building.
Mia's here. J Ram.
Erica
showed up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I saw somebody with Ram in the name. Where was it? Can't find it. But much love to you. Please come out some more. We're going to give some love to our Patreons: Nancy Bancher, Pedro Hernandez, Deborah B, PJ Chris, Akabash Akita, and Zachary Gostin. So, with that said, any last words, Bendone?
Joe Rogan sucks.
Last words, Carlito.
Go Hawks, baby.
John. No words. Gabe.
Carlitos, you suck, you Joe Manchin. You Joe Manchin for not vetoing the trade in the basketball league. You need to stand up for what's right, and you need to have courage. You suck.
Oh, Lord.
And I was waiting to let you have it.
We're due. All right. Everybody in the chat, much love to y'all. See y'all next week. And I think Carlito's going to take a 2-show break. And I'm going to see if our guy that came last week, Raf can
Big Pun.
Big Pun can come back. Yeah. All right. Much love to y'all. Adios. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Peace.